Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's hard to say good evening because we are recording this. This is a pre-recorded show on Saturday, but it's been about 2 days since the Supreme Court ruling has come down for broker lot. Well, I'm going to say the Montgomery case is what I know it is. I'm not sure of the official name. But we have with us today our resident we're borrowing him from DAT, Mr. Dean Croke, our resident rates and analysis. he's kind of our resident guru over here on this side of things, and we always appreciate Dean for coming on. But we wanted to get Dean on so that we could definitely discuss the implications of what this ruling means, what we think it may, how it may affect rates going in the future, how it may affect capacity going into the future, so on and so forth. So if you guys would do us a huge favor as we're getting started, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the show. It helps us out tremendously. I got started without even putting my microphone on, so I'm going to try to get that squared away, and hopefully it doesn't cause any problems. And I want to make sure we introduce Dean already, but let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. And we're going to just kind of riff a little bit, kind of give our take on what we think happened, and also we're going to review the this week in freight. Hopefully, Dean has some. I think Dean has some stuff prepared for us already, and so we're going to get a chance to see that information. And also, who could forget, man? We are coming off the heels of the road check week. And sometimes you could say you were coming off of the heels of it, but a lot of times it's been my experience that road check week, when they give you the advertised dates, but you really start getting hit the week before or the week after. So
I think it's been going on all year, Rico.
Is that right?
Yeah, they started with the 26 state blitz in January. They did another one in Florida here a few weeks ago. You know how hot South Carolina's been. So I think the fact they advertised it this year was a bit of a head fake. I think they've been out there for 3 months.
I really don't think a lot of people realize for South Carolina to be as small as it is, and it's only about, regardless of which way you're going through it, it's only maybe about 150 miles. Right. If you're going north to south, and it may be like 100 miles if you're going north to south to east to west. It's like 150, and north to south is like 106 miles. But I tell you, going through South Carolina is like going through the gauntlet, buddy. I have seen more trucks pulled over. This is no joke, and I go through South Carolina all of the time. That's my home state. I go through there, and I have seen as many as 12 trucks within a 106-mile stretch being pulled over from the time I cross over from North Carolina going back until I cross over into Georgia. I sat and counted as many as 12 trucks being pulled over and inspected at a time. And there were still more DOT officers sitting in the truck waiting to find a customer, as we like to say.
Let me ask something, Rico. Do you ever get stopped in South Carolina?
Oh yeah, I think the states that I have gotten inspected in the most has been South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi.
Well, it's no mistake. Spot rates went up in each of those areas this week by a long way. Like they're all up about 21 cents a mile this week across those three. But then nationally, rates are up about 22 cents a mile because of Road Check Week, but not surprising. We've just seen Road Check Week has delivered some records, guys. Like I've been saying for a few months now that I was expecting record numbers of drivers to take time off this week because the focus on ELDs, English language, and a whole range of things, but also in flatbed. So when we look at we measure how many carriers take time off by the drop in equipment posts on our load board.
Right.
So how many carriers are posting their truck looking for loads is a proxy for capacity. Every year we see a drop of about, I'll tell you what the 9-year average is so you can get a sense of why these numbers are pretty interesting this week. But over the course of 9 years, on average, we see an 8% drop this week just ended. So there's 8% fewer trucks posting their trucks on our load board during road check week over the last 9 years. It's a noticeable drop down, and then they come back up the week after. Dry van this week was 12%. Reefer was 11%. Flatbed was 20%, a 20% drop against the 9% 9-year average. So we had double the number of flatbedders take their time off compared to dry van and reefer this week. And because load securement was a big part of this week's inspection. So, but it wasn't so much how many carriers didn't post their trucks on the load board. It was the fact that we've just seen record week over week jumps in spot rates. The highest ever. We saw in dry van this morning when I downloaded the 7-day rolling average excluding fuel, dry van up 22, reefer was up 32 cents a mile this week. Flatbed up 10 cents. Like, we've never in the history of our company seen rates jump that much in a week.
Wow.
But keep in mind, demand is still fairly flat. Like, overall economic demand, truckload demand, not doing anything fantastic. We've been calling this a supply-led repricing cycle. But to see this level of rate volatility during this week tells me, A, a lot of carriers took time off.
Right.
And B, there's a lot fewer carriers around, which again is, we talked about this on the last show. But rates are sitting, I mean, so flatbed rates are at a record high today, excluding fuel at 279. They're all holding much higher than where they were a year ago. Flatbed, the record high for flatbed was 275 in June of 2021, excluding fuel. Right, today it's at 279.
Woo.
So we're and forecast to go to about 285 by the time we get to June 20. So it's not unrealistic to think we might see $3 a mile line haul rates in flatbed by the time we get to July 4, because there's something going on with capacity, and we were joking about it off air, but road check week's been going on all year, because I watch it on social media and you see these events and you hear the reports, and it started in January and they've been very serious about getting rid of all this questionable capacity. But the thing I've seen going on in my town, in small town America, where there's a 2-lane road going through a town, we're not talking an interstate, is state troopers, DOT, federal, highway patrol, you name it, everybody's there pulling over everybody.
Yep.
Not just trucks, everybody. In, like, I have not seen this level of enforcement at a small town level, looking at everybody's documentation. And that tells me that there's a lot of people that have said, maybe now's the time to get out of this industry. And I think that's what we're seeing in the rates.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to get people jumping back in it either, the way we did last time, especially if we take out the foreign element.
Yeah.
If they're not coming into America and Canada to get back into the trucking business, then there's not that many people want to get, take on this.
Well, we're in a transition period, I think, Chuck and Rico, because with a lot of this marginal capacity at the tail end of the market is being squeezed out, both by the enforcement, but also by this recently announced Montgomery ruling. Right. So it's going to squeeze out a lot of the marginal carriers at the tail, and brokers also who can't afford the additional insurance costs. But what's happening though is we're in this transition period where rates are improving so much, it actually looks attractive to come back into the industry, which means that if you wanted to come back and be leased on or have an independent contractor, the economics really do work this time around. But it'll be a different type of carrier coming back into the industry this time.
Right.
Here. Well, let's jump into it. Dean, what is your take on this Montgomery ruling? What do you think that this would be?
I think it raises the bar for small carriers. I think small carriers who don't have good safety records, who don't play by the rules, are going to find it very hard to find spot market freight, because brokers they're going to be forced to raise the bar in terms of who they get to haul their freight. So it means that there's an extra layer now of both cost and compliance to play in the spot market. But for large brokers and carriers, there's probably no change other than maybe there's a bit more cost for insurance. But for a lot of people, they've already been doing this. This is table stakes for a lot of brokers and carriers in the industry. So I don't know that there's much change for the larger enterprises. Where I see a lot of change is in the small end of the market, where it's just become very, very difficult for small brokers and small carriers to play in this market because of the additional costs and the additional liability layers. So I think all it does is it really just adds another log to the fire that's already sort of burning under spot capacity. It's just, it's I think it's a gradual bullish upward push on spot rates. It's just another thing that's causing capacity to exit the industry. But I don't know that it's a market changing event. Like, it's not going to cause the whole market to change its trajectory, because it's something that's already been in place, and it's something that a lot of brokers have already been doing. So it's just business as usual for a lot of people. But for others, though, this is a big change in terms of compliance and how they demonstrate their compliance and access to spot markets and brokers, because they're going to have to be more diligent about who they use to haul their freight.
Dean, do you think that right now, and this is my personal belief on insurance, I think the insurance has been way too low for way too long a time.
Right.
Can you guys think of anything else other than maybe television sets that have gone down in price in 40 years?
No.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Right.
And $750,000 may have been enough 40 years ago, but I don't think it is today.
Yeah. Well, as we know, we have Tommy Rico on the show. It's kind of our resident insurance expert, and Tommy doesn't feel that way.
We've argued.
Tommy doesn't feel that way. And here's my position on it. I don't have a problem with if we're going to raise the insurance, because I think now, here's the thing. It's been, since this ruling has come down, on one side of the pendulum, that you have the brokers, and there's been a lot of hand wringing and things of that nature. How could this happen? A lot of people, when you look at the social media posts, were really caught flat-footed. They really thought that the Supreme Court was going to rule in their favor. And then on the other side of the pendulum, you have some carriers and stuff, small guys out here that are kind of like rejoicing and singing in the streets. I think I kind of fall a little bit more in the middle, as I tend to always do. I don't think that this is necessarily, sometimes they say you have to be careful what you ask for. I don't, and the thing about it is, I think that on the carrier side, I think the reason why that a lot of the carriers were so-called dancing in the street is that you have, they feel a small sense of vindication, because now, okay, maybe now this will force brokers to really start to be a little bit more strategic on who they do business with.
Sure.
You've got, I mean, it's well publicized. C.H. Robinson named one of the biggest bad actors out there their carrier of the year. And there are numerous amounts of allegations out there from agents and brokers of C.H. Robinson that have done a lot of unscrupulous things that are being put out there, that allegedly being put out there. Whether how much truth to that, I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff has to cut down on these back channel communications, where you have brokers that are using WhatsApp, texting drivers, and so on, and things of the like. And so I think that from a carrier's perspective, they feel like, okay, well, now brokers are going to start to feel and maybe have to carry insurance to match what it is that carriers have to carry. And one of the things that carriers feel upset about with the adversarial position that comes in when they feel the way that they feel towards the broker community is that you have many brokers that have been reporting record profits over the past 40 years, record profits, while many good domestic carriers have been folding up shop, going out of business. And they feel it, and so whether it's right or wrong, they feel that brokers have been able to take advantage of the market and not bear any responsibility and stand behind some of the laws that have been in place that have kind of shielded them from being liable in these situations. So you can't just, and I don't think that every case I think that everything should be measured on a case by case basis. You cannot say that every broker is doing this thing on every hire. I think that as a case by case basis, I think that all of those need to be evaluated on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
And I think that for motor carriers, where you have to be careful is now on our end, from a broker standpoint, we have to be doing more things to show that we are compliant, that we are safe, that we are worthy of making sure that you do business with us versus just going out and finding the cheapest mode of the cheapest thing that you can hire. So that's kind of where
I think you're dead right. I think you're right, Rico, because for brokers, the big change is, like there's now a powerful incentive to dispatch safe, well-rated carriers, like with clean records, low basics, and the right documentation. So I think it means exactly that. There's one way to look at it is the law didn't change so much as opposed to the financial exposure did. And I think the financial exposure changes behavior faster than any regulation will, right? Because now there's a real incentive around, or not to hire, carriers that aren't vetted properly. And I think that tightens up everything, not just on the broker side, Rico, but I think on the carrier side, it tightens up things as well. Now, of course, you've got to have a lot of things going on at the same time. We can't have chameleon carriers swapping MC numbers across multiple trucks.
No.
We can't have insurance companies and brokers insuring 100 trucks for the cost of 50 on a slip, right? We've got to really clamp down on the CDL schools and all those sorts of things. So if you put all this together, though, I think it's a really good story for trucking companies that do the right thing. And I think that's where I think the rates help them, because I don't see anything but more upward pressure on rates because of this for carriers that do the right thing.
This is definitely it's going to be inflationary when on rates for short-term, long-term. And another question,
any carrier that was providing cheap rates because they were cutting corners is not going to be able to cut corners anymore.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing about it. I think that you still have, and I'm curious to know, and I would pray that maybe 60 Minutes or somebody that has the resources may go and do a more deeper dive. Because, man, I'm seeing stuff out there from companies like Genlogs and stuff like that. Some of the technology that is out there that they're able to provide. Yeah. How in the hell are these people still able to cook the books and still not getting busted for doing what it is that they're doing? I don't know if that
this week Ryan posted stuff on Genlogs. You think, oh my God.
I mean, the stuff that I'm seeing, I had no idea that I understood some things were out there, right. But I mean, I've seen videos of the trucks moving on the highway, not just at scale stations or nothing like. I mean, they're utilizing. I guess they're utilizing the flock cameras or DOT, however they're doing it.
They've got their own proprietary cameras, Genlogs on buildings.
They have cameras that you can fake your logbook all you want, but you can't fake video evidence of your truck with the VIN number plastered on the side going down the road when you were supposed to be doing a 34-hour reset. And so I think that when ELDs first came about, I was of the opinion that, okay, this is a great thing, not necessarily because, for one thing, I don't really want to work that damn hard. I mean, like,
right.
I have in the past. I'm going to be 100% honest hand to God. I have in the past, back in the old days, because that was the way I taught when I first came in. I know how to fudge on the logbook. I know how to do all that stuff. But I don't want to work that hard.
Right.
I mean, and then, like I say, you're really putting not only putting your own health at risk, you're putting the safety of everybody else at risk, and for what? For a few dollars, and it's not really like, I mean, we're not talking about generational wealth, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're talking about you might be able to make enough money to maybe make an extra payment on your car note or something, maybe.
Right.
So it doesn't. To me, to fudge on your law, I was of the opinion with the ELDs coming in, it would definitely help on a couple of different fronts. Now we would have GPS proof that we are due for detention. Well, that didn't come to pass because drivers are still getting screwed over off of detention and giving away free labor for time for things of that nature. Part two, I thought that it would be now it would kind of help, quote unquote, level the playing field to where now the rates would have to reflect everyone being on ELDs. And what happened, what we actually noticed when the ruling for ELDs came into effect, we saw rates skyrocket. They went to the moon. But then shortly after that, I don't know, we motor carriers and whoever it was that cracked the code on how to be able to get into the ELD to fix them, we screw ourselves out of the prosperity that is the things that could be there for good for us. We screw ourselves out of it by trying to figure out a way to defeat it.
Yeah,
but that was the chameleon carriers and the ones that didn't want to comply that were doing that.
No, I'm not going to put that all on chameleon carriers, Chuck. I've seen plenty of people domestically that have their own authorities. I'm not going to put all that squarely on the chameleon carriers. We definitely have done. Yeah. We've done our own.
Non-compliant domestic carriers did it too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's and of course at the same time, Rico, everyone went out and bought a record number of new trucks in late 2018, just after the hard mandate came in on April the 1st, and then the trade war started, and the next thing we've got a freight depression in 2019, and then there's more incentive to try and do more, break more rules, like bend things even further throughout that whole 2019 period. And then the pandemic hit, and then it was like a free-for-all, and we're still paying for that now. So, but I do honestly think that spot rates have made a move because capacity's left, and contract rates are catching up really quickly.
Right.
Like last time we were on the show, I went back and looked, new rates coming into routing guides based on big carrier and broker negotiations with shippers have been flat for 2 years. Like they haven't been able to get. It's been a shipper's market. Well, in the last 6 to 8 weeks, every week, new rates coming into routing guides based on a recent RFP are up in the sort of low single-digit range. Reefer's up 6% last week. Dry van's up about 5%. Even flatbed is rising, and it's been flat for 2 years. It's been negative 5% for 2 years. So if contract rates are rising, and it's just become harder for big companies to hire and train and find and keep drivers. And the same is happening in the spot market in terms of all of this crackdown on these marginal carriers. It just means that when demand does turn around, rates, there's more upward pressure on rates. So remember, all of this is happening. We're seeing record level rates. All of this is happening with the backdrop of very flat demand. Like imagine when demand starts to come back for all of the carriers that are out there. And I think if you've been able to survive the last 3 years, Rico, you are in a position to really make up for all of those hard years coming down the road, because I see nothing but upward pressure on rates, because the barrier that, the doorway that drivers comes through is getting narrower and narrower. And I haven't even got to hair follicle drug testing.
And I think that this is a good thing because the barrier of entry has risen, and I think that now with this ruling coming down, the Montgomery front, it's going to put a bigger barrier of entry for brokers as well, because brokering has been one of the few industries. I mean, brokering is transportation as a whole is what, a $800 billion industry, or
the truckload's about $450 billion, truckload only. It's $1 trillion industry, transportation, right? But truckload's about 450 to 500 billion.
So I think it's a good thing that it's going to it's going to make a barrier of entry that's going to make it a little bit more difficult on everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that barrier of entry is a good thing ultimately, because it's going to weed some people out.
Yep.
Some people are saying that this could be the introduction of the chameleon broker.
I don't know.
Well, I had someone tell me about insurance brokers. This is not a freight broker story, but insurance brokers that were splitting the difference on saving on underinsuring fleets, and splitting the savings difference. Because like, when you have an insurance schedule, you don't technically have to. Well, you should, but they've obviously, fleets that got 100 trucks and insure 50. Like any accident's covered, right? Any one loss, but it's kind of undermines the efficacy of the whole system when you've got that. So I think we've probably got another maybe 6 months to go before we really tighten up everything. Like, because there's not a lot of legislation behind some of this yet. We need Delilah's law. There's I think there's 8 states that are pursuing their own state legislation around English language proficiency. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of things going on simultaneously that are just tightening the net around all of these shady operations that we've been seeing on all sides of the ledger.
And here's the thing that I'm scratching my head on. When you say states that are pursuing their own English language proficiency, are they doing it to come in line with the federal mandate, or that? Because I thought
that's a federal law.
I thought it's federal that everybody has to either get in line with the federal or
they're doing their own things. There are I could quote you who the states are, but there are states like Alabama. You mentioned Alabama. There's one they're doing their own thing. Ohio did their own thing. Let me find it for you. And
now, is this beyond what the federal mandate says? Have they carried it even further?
No, they're doing their own. They're doing their own state-based thing that may or may not come in line with the federal regulation. So I'll give you an example. We've got Florida Highway Shield. Where is it here? So let me go to the states. So we've got Alabama. English language and non-domicile requires English proficiency of all CDL holders, requires work authority for foreign CDL holders. So some of it's in line with the federal, to your point. South Dakota, same thing. Wyoming expands English proficiency enforcement to all state, local enforcement, not just highway patrol, $1,000 fines. Utah requires CDL applicants and driving schools to certify English language during training. Iowa blocks CDL issuance renewal without proven English proficiency. Tennessee, Missouri, Indiana waives among the wave of states enacting ELP measures. Arkansas, Oklahoma, California requires owner-operators to meet the ABC test. That's old news. So, and 11 states, that's CARB. So there are, some of them are out there doing things, and if you look at what some of my summary of what the key provisions are, they're in line with the federal guidelines that they're trying to develop around English language proficiency and testing, but they're pushing ahead with it regardless of where the federal deal is at, which is, I think that's unusual to see states going out on their own like this to try and force these regulations at a state level before the federal level.
I think that, like I said, I think that the kind of the warning shots that a couple of states received when they started holding back the
money.
DOT, the money, I think that was enough to kind of get people in line.
Oh, absolutely.
And to connect that dot, I think that, same thing with this whole thing.
Yep.
Going back to the Montgomery ruling.
Yep.
And people are complaining about, well, we shouldn't try to force brokers to do the job of the FMCSA. I agree with that. The FMCSA definitely needs to get stuff in line and get carriers properly rated and everything. And hopefully this will be a catalyst to get them more sufficient manpower to be able to do that.
Yeah, so the FMCSA. So how this started, this Operation Safe Drive 26 state blitz in January, which is why I said we've had road check week for 3 months now, 4 months. They identified 30 states that were issuing non-compliant CDLs, and they sent official enforcement action to those states on the road, right? They withheld $160 million from California, 73 from New York, 73 million from there. So you know, and Secretary Duffy says they've more than 28,000 illegally issued licenses have been revoked. So there's the attachment of federal funding to states that are not compliant is acting as a real catalyst also for states to do their own thing. So whichever way you look at it, I just see fewer trucks when demand really starts to come back.
Oh yeah,
and that's something I'd be getting ready.
You were mentioning the hair follicle testing.
Yep.
Now, is that for people coming in, or is that going to be everything? Are we going to get away with the? Are we going to stop the urine testing?
Yeah, they're trying to do it for everything, right? So it was supposed to be for it was. I think the initial bill was for trucking, right? And that's turned. I think I can't remember the exact department name, but they're wanting it to be for all workers in the industry. So I'm just trying to find if I can find my marijuana drug testing thing. It's not coming up quickly, but what they're trying. So two things they're trying to push forward, and it hasn't. It's got part of it's got some. There's a bill that's been sponsored last year around this. I think it's the Department of Health. They want to get a positive marijuana test added to the clearinghouse.
Right.
For step one. Because right now you can be in a town where one does hair follicle and one does urine testing. You can fail the hair follicle test and go over and drive for the guy that's got urine testing. Right. Because urine testing is like a 2 to 3 day look back. Hair follicle testing is a 90-day look back on your drug taking. So, and when you look at the data, hair follicle testing catches 5 times the number of urine tests that get marijuana caught through urine. So if they can, and this all fits under this narrative that they're trying to push around making that industry safer, which I understand what they're trying to do. Yeah. It's got a lot of bipartisan support. So, you know, I think that in this current administration has a lot of potential to get through. It's still sitting in with, I think it's HHS. I'm going to get the acronym wrong, but it's still sitting and being delayed. And when I looked at the truckload carriers website yesterday, they have a big page on it, and the TCA website, and they're increasingly frustrated about how long it's taking to get this pushed through. So that, if you add that on top of everything, and this happens in the next year or so, I just think it's really hard for large fleets, anybody, to find drivers that meet this standard.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you think about the pool of drivers that we hire from, it just becomes a little bit smaller.
Sure.
So
especially if we're hiring new people from outside the industry, especially new young people.
Yeah.
I know that if I'm not mistaken, it's Schneider and Green Bay have been doing hair testing for new employees for ages. For
I think
5 years. I think.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Very successfully.
Yeah. So I think that if you look past all of the stuff that's going on, I've never seen anything in my time here that has had such an impact on getting rid of capacity out of this industry, absent demand. So I think I like to keep my focus on the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that demand isn't crashing, but it's not taking off either. And when it does, fewer trucks are going to be around, and that's a huge windfall for carriers that are still out there that do the right thing. But for shippers, it's a little bit frightening right now, because contract rates, we did a survey a few weeks ago, 80% of the shippers had carriers come back repricing their bids in the last 6 weeks. So majority of carriers are looking for rate increases already, because I think we might have said this last year that, and I certainly had a view that a lot of contract rates weren't serviceable at their current levels, that, you know, you would see routing guide failure and tender rejections start to rise and acceptance rates fall because the rates are just too low.
Yeah.
And I think if you give this time to work its way through, where this capacity exits and demand improves, we have a roaring freight market that will attract a lot of new capacity. And that'll be the test, is that new capacity that comes in is as good and compliant and as efficient as Rico is with his truck, right? Well, no, that's probably impossible. But
I tell you what,
do it.
So it's got to be done. You know what? There's no cutting corners with this. It's safety. You can't cut corners. It catches up with you.
we touched on it a little bit, and I'm looking. Dean, you want to go ahead? We'll kind of shift back and forth because this has probably been one of the most riveting shows we've done in quite
That's an understatement, buddy.
You want to play the regional rate roundup?
Yeah, let's take a look. And you got control of it. So if you want to pause, play it and pause it.
Play. I recorded that. This is on our show yesterday morning on the IQ show, but this is dry van. I've got it for reefer and flatbed. We'll just do dry van today because we set some records this week. And here's the regional roundup. The national 7-day end of the week at 222. That's excluding fuel, up 32% higher on the year and 30% higher than the long-term average. Top 50 lanes up 15 to 251. Midwest regions, there's 13 states there, up also 16 cents a mile to 244. As always, during the 72-hour CVSA road check week blitz, load to truck ratio tightened up 54% to 13.38. Load posts are up 36%, equipment posts down 11%. Let's start with our top 10 regions. Leading the market was the Southeast at 259 per mile, up 8.3% on the week and 36% on the year. Ohio River ranks second at 257, up 6.9% week over week and 37% year over year. It was the biggest annual gain in the top 10. Third was California. They came in at 254 per mile, up 6.3% on the week and 28.3% year over year. A lot of long-haul outbound lanes experienced tightened capacity last week. Great Lakes was next. They led the region in dry van volume at 16.4% of all van loads moved. Rates climbed 6.6% to $2.47 per mile. Carolinas next. They posted the steepest weekly gain in the dry van top 10 at 9.6%. They reached at 244 per mile. South Carolina particularly vigilant down there during road check week. A lot of tight capacity there up and down the I-94 corridor. South Central, anchored by Texas, of course, moved 15.5% of the nation's freight last week, up 5.9% to 229 per mile. Lower Midwest was next. They posted a 5% weekly gain to 217. A lot of those lanes tightened, driven by road check week carrier withdrawals in the Midwest, as we typically see. Nothing unusual, though. Florida, South Georgia posted the largest weekly gain in the top 10 at 15.9%. They were at 209 per mile. Of course, the Mother's Day floral volumes overlapped with road check week last week, causing capacity strengths down there. Upper Atlantic next, nearly 10% of the national volume. Rates climbed 6.4% to 202 per mile. Pennsylvania particularly vigilant last week in terms of the impact of road check week. Rounding out the top 10, Lower Mountain reached $1.68 per mile, still posting a 3.3% weekly gain. A lot of those outbound lanes tightened modestly, though, during road check week. That's our top 10 regions in dry van. And they're about 87% of our loads moved, those top 10 regions. So that's kind of, an interesting snapshot of where the market's at. But I think the interesting thing, Rico, was the biggest weekly gain was in South Carolina. And no surprise there. Pennsylvania, pretty steep. Florida, dry van. Florida's not a big dry van market, but rate increases were pretty steep because of carriers' reluctance to go down there because of all the enforcement action. So again, across our entire network, we saw record levels of carrier absence from the road. And, load posts are a measure of how challenged brokers are to find trucks. Those, load posts went up, equipment posts went down, load to truck ratio takes off. I think the biggest tell, though, was the fact that we saw the largest week over week gains nationally that we've ever seen in the spot market. And I think the big thing I'm watching is, will rates hold and we see a step change, or do they come back down? So normally they go up, they spike and drop back down. But in markets like this, they have the potential to go up and then hold.
I think that's where we are. If I were a betting man, that's where I'd be placing bets. I'd be placing bets at rates holding. And yeah. I think that this is a market correction on so many fronts because of the cost of operations for every carrier, no matter how small, no matter how large, has increased.
Increased. Yeah.
And the thing about it is, for the past 4 years, really, as a reefer carrier myself, as a small truck operation, we have just been taking freight, taking loads just to kind of to try to survive.
Right.
There's been absolutely zero growth. There's been absolutely anything to put away for a war chest or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
This has probably been no, I'm not even going to say probably. This has been the toughest market that I have ever seen. And I started with my own authority in 2010. And I've had as many as 5 trucks at one point in time. That probably why I'm as bald as I am now. When I was
it does take a toll on your head.
Between that and having 4 daughters, I don't know. But going back to my point, the operation. So I think that I'm not trying to say that I don't think that there's carriers out there that are gouging or being greedy. I'm not saying that some gouging may not have taken place over the last week during road check week. I'm pretty sure that some people have really stuck it to a couple of brokers if they were positioned in the right place. But at the same time, the market is the market.
Yep.
Right.
And so I think that we're in a position now to where the pendulum is kind of swinging back towards carriers being able to run a profitable. And when I say profitable, that doesn't mean, like I said, that's not setting the world on fire. That's just being able to continue to operate safely and continue to upgrade or replace equipment as needed and things of that nature, just to kind of put your business in a steady kind of growth pattern, if you will. Not saying that you're looking to scale exponentially, but hell, it's at least enough to be able to, if you're running a 1-truck operation, you can justify going out and upgrading some equipment because now you know that you have a little bit more revenue to kind of, because the equipment prices definitely went up.
Yeah. Maintenance costs have gone through the roof.
Absolutely. I mean,
And
that's really
those, I think
that's really been the kicker. The maintenance cost is what's been kicking our ass.
Of course. And you know what? I think that some of the carriers that were non-compliant let go of maintenance.
Oh, sure, they did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We heard dealers.
That's where they talk about. I hear. I'm giving him a shout out, Matthew Leffler, the armchair attorney. I keep hearing him. He keeps touting about how many trucks are unsafe, no matter at any speed going down the road. And there probably is some truth to that. But when you, like I said, when you're being depressed on the rates, when rates are being depressed, and you're just trying to stay in business, the first thing that's going to go is maintenance.
I had a large dealer where I buy a lot of truck parts tell me that their revenue's down because people aren't servicing their trucks as much. They're widening the intervals. But I think it's, I hear a lot of talk about people that have never driven a truck talking about how unsafe the industry is. I have a real problem with it. I just have a problem with people denigrating our industry because you get out on the road. The problem isn't truck drivers only. Like, we know where the problem is. It's not truck drivers. It's insane to think that. And stuff breaks. I don't care how good you are. You can have everything perfect and go 10 miles down the road and something breaks. So you just can't infer that because there's violation rates of X that everyone's unsafe. And what you'll find this week is, from road check week, something like 94 to 95% of trucks that were inspected were clean and were passed. And I think we tend to lose sight of that. I just think that people that say our industry is unsafe is missing the point. It's a bit like the Montgomery ruling, because it only affects really the tail end of the carrier market. Right? It's not all carriers, right? And because I think it's important also that it doesn't matter what country you're in or what sector, there's always a percentage of people that want to cut corners. Like, always. Right. There's the 1%ers, no matter where you are. It seems to be that they'll always find a way around the system. So, but that's where the focus is. The focus is always on that rather than the majority that do it right. So,
and I think that that's what I was going back to saying, finishing up, probably putting a bow on this as we get ready to wind down. I think that's the thing that the Montgomery case is going to do as far as it's going to force everyone involved in the supply chain to come up with a viable system. I think that there has to be checks and balances all the way around. And I think that now that this has been, brokers understand that they can be lined up squarely in the crosshairs, and that they can't just, well, we didn't have control of this, that, and the third, but you do have the ability with all of the technology that is out there. The vetting systems that brokers go through has to match what it is. When you're going through, you have to make sure that you're vetting and matching sufficient carriers, proper carriers.
The cheapest rates.
And I think that the people that have that system in place and do it by that system every single time, it will stand up against the scrutiny. And I think that those people don't really have that. I'm not going to say they don't have anything to worry about, because Lord knows there's some attorney somewhere out there that can figure out a way around anything. But I think that you're still, your first line of defense is if you hire a good motor carrier, I think that will shield everyone from the liability, that exposure, by having a good proper carrier on the loads. And a good proper carrier is not going to be able to, because I still get the emails when I'm negotiating on loads. I wish I might blurt out some blur the names on some of these things, but I still get the emails from brokers. Strong Solo can handle this load, and I'm serious. I still get these emails.
Good Lord.
And so, hopefully that this will, from a top-down perspective, the people at these brokerages will start bringing in their agents and their brokers and saying, look, guys, this stuff got to stop.
Can you imagine? That's discoverable, that email.
Exactly.
Can you imagine trying to defend that in court? What do you mean by a strong solo? Like,
right. but I mean, I'm personally still getting those, and so I know if I'm getting them, I know that's an anecdotal example. But if I'm getting them, Lord knows how many other people are getting them, or how many other people is this being suggested to?
Probably one of the best terms I've ever heard, a strong solo. Like, get real. That's
in the broker bro world of X and everything else. Even on LinkedIn, I'm blown away by the people on LinkedIn talking about the strong solo Sergey. I mean, this is it's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It defies logic in a litigious world and country that we live in that people would document that or even talk about it. That's
that's on the broker side. I'll tell you what defies logic. I don't know if I sent you any of those videos, Dean, but you got the drivers that are out here talking about running with the Russians and talking about how they're cooking the logbooks and stuff. I'm like,
you sent me one last week. The guy documented 4,700 miles in a week.
You are convicting yourself
on video.
We don't need to go anywhere else. You have convicted yourself. You testifying against yourself.
Or for clicks.
Exactly. And whatever little revenue that you may be receiving off of social media, but once you post that to social media, you're never going to be able to take that down. So say, for instance, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, you decide to clean up your act, and then heaven forbid you get into a small little bump up or whatever.
Hey, this is where
somebody pulls up that damn video that you posted 5 years ago of you talking about how of your behavior.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, it boggles the mind.
Yeah,
it boggles the mind. And I actually reached out to this person, via DM and like, hey man, why are you doing this?
Clicks. I want clicks.
Why are you doing this? But there's an old saying, my grandfather used to say, people will sell their soul just to buy some attention.
Right.
Maybe this guy's not really even a truck driver.
Oh, yes, he is.
He is a trucker.
Yes,
I looked at that video and I did some social media searching. Yeah, he's out there banging around.
Oh, yes, he is.
Yeah.
he actually even posted a video of him getting a DOT inspection and passed. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't understand how is it that law enforcement don't have some of this technology that is out there that is available, or is it just slowly coming online?
I think it's coming online because this is where AI starts to help searching for all this information in pretty short order. I think that the time is coming where they'll be able to search all that information pretty quickly and find those folks and have targeted enforcement. They'll know where they are and pull them over. Like that's what, gen logs can tell people where they are pretty quickly. And
see, I think that's going to, and I now see the thing I didn't know. I did a little bit of research. Boy, that technology is expensive. Because I was like, man, this is kind of neat. So I started digging into it. I think that I don't know. I've seen prices quoted somewhere in the ballpark of $30,000 for.
Whoa. But $30,000, that gives you, how many trucks can you do for the 30?
I'm not sure if that's for what kind of suite that is or whatever, but I just from Google searches and searches online, but I've seen that it's kind of pricey. I don't even want to bother the time asking for a demo and talking to a salesperson because I know it's out of my ball league, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dean, we appreciate you for taking the time, my friend. Like I said, this has been one of the most riveting shows that we have had in quite some time. It's going to be very interesting going forward to see the fallout and how this thing actually shakes out. Like I say, you got some people that are hand wringing, you got some people that are dancing in the streets. Not so sure. There's definitely some cleaning up that needs to be done all the way around. But I think that I don't think the freight's going to stop moving. No. This is just something else that we gotta another thing that we hurdle that we have to figure out how to cross. And I think that we're going to figure out a way to do that. But I think we already kind of got the things in place to do it. We just have gotten laxed in, as the old term, the term from, I'll say it this way, stealing the term from Michael Douglas in the movie. We have allowed people to take on the attitude of greed is good.
Very short-lived.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great point.
Yeah. So, and with that being said, Dean, let the folks know how they can find your work, where they might be able to catch up with you. You say you're on the road. Maybe some people might want to get out there and shake your hand or whatever.
America, the ATHS, the American Truck Historical Society show in Joplin, Missouri, June 2nd. I'll be there for the week.
Springfield, Missouri, not Joplin.
Springfield. I say Joplin? Springfield.
Yes.
I'm going to go to Joplin to 4 states on the way. So we have our show every Tuesday, every Monday at 11 a.m. at DAT Freight and Analytics. But if you want to get any of this information that I've just shared, that's when we run the video on Mondays at 11. But I push out a weekly newsletter. Just contact me on LinkedIn, send me a message with your email, and I'll get you on the distribution list so you get all the rates and charts every week.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it again, Dean. The wealth of information, the wealth of knowledge. We thank you for taking the time out, coming on here, sharing that with us. Chuck, my friend.
Yes. If anybody needs me, if I can help anybody with anything, please just send me an email with your phone number to chucksnow280@outlook.com, and I'll be sure to answer you. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week. Dean,
ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys for taking the time out to join us. If you would, please leave us a comment. Make sure that you like the show. If you found anything that we talked about today informative, entertaining, or anything of that nature, make sure you subscribe. When you hit the subscribe button, there's a little bell icon. Click that bell for us. That gives you the ability to get notified whenever we post new content. So if you would do that for us, then we greatly appreciate it. We'd be in debt to you. We want you guys, ladies and gentlemen, out there to stay safe, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, stay profitable. We'll talk at you same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
God bless. Catch you on the flip-flop.
Thanks, Dean.
Hey, thanks. I'm going to... Oh, he's gone. Okay. All right. See you, Rico. Thanks.
Take it easy, Dean.
All right, man.
Be safe out there.
Yeah, you too.